Hello viewers, 4DIYers here with another tutorial video for everyone. In this particular video here, I'll be doing a demonstration of how to replace the Serpentine belts along with the tensioner removal. I will be replacing the alternator tensioner on a Volvo C30 T5. A similar procedure also applies to the S40, V50, and C70 models. Just to give you an idea of what a slipping belt sounds like, the sound may come and go and can be more noticeable during morning dew or in the rain. Depending on the severity, this can disappear once the vehicle warms up. Sometimes you can apply a dressing to a squeaking or squealing belt, but for the most part, that's a temporary fix and the noise will eventually come back. The only way to access the belt is through the passenger side fender well. This vehicle I am working on is a left-hand drive. Start by safely elevating the vehicle. Remove the wheel and place a jack stand under the subframe as a safety measure. There will be 3 T25 Torx screws which need to be removed on the rear of the fender liner. Then 5 more T25 Torx screws at the front of the fender liner. Remove the 2 10mm plastic nuts on the inside of the fender liner just behind the strut assembly. Remove the 1 T30 Torx screw for the belly pan. This fastens directly to the liner. Now remove the fender liner. I find it's easiest to pull the inside portion behind the strut back towards you to disconnect it from the threaded studs for the 10mm plastic nuts and then pull down. And finally, pull the top edge up and lift out. To remove the first belt, which comes off the crankshaft and goes to the AC compressor, using a T50 Torx driver and a 3/8 drive ratchet, rotate the tensioner clockwise to remove the tension and then remove the belt. Use a pick to remove any debris in the Torx slot to ensure it has good contact so we don't risk stripping that part. Now I already replaced the first belt but couldn't replace the second one as somebody already stripped the location for the Torx driver. To remove a belt that you can't relieve the tensioner, you'll have to cut the old one off as there isn't any alternative methods. To cut the belt, just use side cutters. It's not hard, but be careful so nothing flies back at you as it's under tension. This belt comes off the AC compressor and drives the alternator. To replace the alternator tensioner, first you'll need to remove the AC tensioner, which is held on with a 13mm bolt. For this, you can use a shallow socket with a 3/8 drive ratchet. Then pull the tensioner straight out. This tensioner does need to be removed in order to get the alternator tensioner removed. It's somewhat of a puzzle of how all the components fit together. Now remove the alternator's tensioner, again using a 13mm socket, but it also requires a swivel joint, then a 6-inch extension and ratchet. Pull the tensioner out. Compare the old and new tensioners to ensure they are the same. From what I found, there are 2 different part numbers for tensioners, and this is based on your engine serial number, which is found on the timing belt cover on a white tag. Install the new tensioner. There is an alignment pin, so you'll know the tensioner is properly seated. I cleaned up the threaded bolts using a wire brush and then applied medium grade thread locker as well. Typically a faulty tensioner will either have the bearing on the pulley fail or the tensioner itself will no longer hold tension on the belt, causing it to slip. A faulty bearing in a pulley will chirp or squeal, eventually getting worse until it fails. When a tensioner fails, the belt will also squeal or squeak and can be more noticeable in damp conditions. Here's the old belt, and as you can see, the shinier finish, meaning it was slipping. This is called glazing. The ribs are lightly cracked as well. To install a new belt, I found it's easiest to go from the top and push the belt down. Then ensure it's seated on the alternator. Pull it over on the AC's compressor pulley. Then pull the tensioner back and slide the belt over the tensioner's pulley. Make sure it is seated correctly over the ribs. With this belt, you can spin the AC compressor to make sure nothing is binding and the belt is in its correct location. Now reinstall the AC tensioner. Again, I cleaned up the bolt and applied a light amount of medium grade thread locker. I couldn't do this the first time as I had to cut the old belt, but when possible, compare the old and new belts by holding them between your fingers to verify they're the same size. An old belt will be slightly larger as it's stretched, which is perfectly normal. Again, using the same process, remove the tension off the tensioner and then install the belt. It's easiest to install the belts on the ribbed pulleys first, as the smooth pulley requires less movement to slide it over a smooth surface. Install the fender liner. Feed the liner over the spindle assembly, then push it up in place and clip it over the threaded studs for the 10mm plastic nuts. Install the screws by hand just to make sure everything is seated correctly. On the door side of the fender, the liner has a tab which snaps in behind the fender's trim. Finish installing the screws, then tighten everything down. Reinstall the wheel and you're done. New videos are released every week on my channel. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button, it's a huge help to me, and leave a comment below if you found this tutorial helpful. If you're not a subscriber, be sure to hit that subscribe button as well. Thank you for watching.